Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7 update 1.29. So in this video we're going to talk about Sophy. So Sophy AI is finally in Gran Turismo 7 for a limited time for PlayStation 5 users only, which kind of makes sense because this is some very powerful AI technology, and I personally don't understand how a 10-year-old bit of hardware could actually run this. But then again, I'm not really, too into the know in that side of things, but overall I can understand why it is on the PlayStation 5 only. But what matters most, is Sophy AI really that good to race against? Is all the hype and all the kind of questions that we had been answered? Is it really that good? Well, I'm pleased to tell you that actually, yes, it is very, very good. It's a very, I guess, humbling experience. I have honestly, in my 20 plus years of playing racing games, and never ever encountered an AI that can battle you the way Sophy does. But how does it work? Well, basically what Polyphony have done is implemented a limited time event until the end of March, where basically you are going to go up against Sophy, the AI, on 4 different tracks with 4 different cars, and basically there is different difficulties, and it scales to, how easy or how hard you really want it. So basically, the first one is Tsukuba, where you'll be using a Honda Integra Type R. If you go on beginner, you will have an insanely fast car, and you will probably absolutely dominate Sophy. But don't let that fool you. Eventually, you will have the intermediate, which is the medium difficulty, where your car is on usually different compounded tires. It has less performance and such. And then it's the same again when you go on to the expert mode, where basically you're in a even worse version of the car that you originally had, and basically Sophy's turned up a bit more. Now, what I found is that the difficulty was just far too easy on beginner and intermediate. I'd say intermediate is definitely someone that is maybe more beginner than anything. I definitely think the beginner one is just far too easy. I don't know if it's just because of the car it gives you. Usually that's where you have the most grip and the car's easier to drive. But I was finding myself beating Sophy by around about 20 seconds. On intermediate, it was still around about 5 seconds, but if I made a mistake, Sophy would instantly pounce on me. Once you go onto the expert difficulty, whilst I still found it a little bit too easy when there's multiple different Sophys running around, it definitely does give you a bigger challenge, and any slight mistake, Sophy will jump in there and take you on. So in terms of the actual multi-car events, there's going to be 5 of you on track, 1 being yourself, which is the player, and then you have basically Sophy Verte, or Vert, whatever it is. Then you have Sophy Red, Sophy Blue, and Sophy Purple. And the way it works is you will be starting in P4 with the purple Sophy behind you, then you will have green, red, and blue. Now essentially each colour signifies a different difficulty of Sophy. So green is always going to be the slowest car. It doesn't really put up too much of a fight. It will still battle you, but it isn't that difficult to kind of get through, usually because their car is absolutely terrible in comparison to you, and it's definitely a toned down version of Sophy. I never really had much of a battle with the green one. Then you have red, which is another difficulty up from green but below the likes of blue, so that one will start ahead of the green, so that will usually start in P2. And essentially that one will put up a bit more of a fight. It's usually a little bit tougher to get around, but again it's still fairly simple to get past them. Then you have Sophy Bleu, or Blue, which will start in pole position, or basically in front of the whole pack, and essentially it does put up a good fight. It's definitely a step down from Sophy Violet, which I will talk about in a minute, but it will fight you and it will battle you. I definitely noticed that the blue one was a lot more dynamic than the likes of the red or the green, so do expect to have a few battles with that one. It will really defend from you, it will try and predict everything you do. And then we have the start of the show, which is Sophy Violet, which is the car that will start behind you in the multi-class races and essentially attempt to chase you and the rest of the pack down, and it will. Whilst definitely it's easier when there's more cars on track because of, they will battle each other, Sophy Violet will definitely put up a good fight. It really will just dive at any opportunity it gets. It definitely isn't stupid, and it will back out of moves, but it will basically take advantage of any gap you leave. Basically, you will be having to, you know, put all your defensive moves to the test to try and stop this car, basically, you know, kind of getting past you and completely destroying you. So if you've seen from the footage there, I did accidentally take her out. That's because she gets ultra defensive, and I just completely caught my car on the grass, so it did kind of ruin the immersion a little bit there. So here are here's an overview of the 5 events. So obviously race 1 Tsukuba, Alsace, or whatever it's called for race 2, race 3 is Trial Mountain, and then Suzuka is race 4. Again, they all have the difficulties, and they all have 1v1. Definitely a good selection of tracks, and it's interesting to see the lines that Sophy will take when you're racing her. She is very, very good at basically just throwing the car through the corner and catching it, especially when it comes to the front wheel drive Type R at Tsukuba. Some of the angles she was getting through those corners was absolutely ridiculous, and she definitely is pretty much perfect. In terms of the 1v1, she is very, very fast, and the best way to basically beat her is get yourself up in front and then just defend for your life, because she will push you to your limits. Sometimes I did find that she was a bit too aggressive, although she is basically known for backing out of moves where she thinks she might hit you. Eventually, you know, sometimes it does happen where it will just go for the move and it basically can't back out, and will kind of push you around a bit, but it is definitely fun to have a proper battle. In fact, I'd say it's that good that sometimes you even forget you're running against AI. In fact, I'd say Sophy is just that good at racing that it genuinely feels like you are racing in a proper multiplayer lobby. And in fact, she seems to race cleaner as well. She will take advantage of every mistake. She will try her best not to punt you or cause any collision. She will completely defend from you, which is one of the best things I've actually noticed, that once she does get in front, if you do manage to close back up on her, she will literally alter her line and try her best to defend from you. If you try and move out of the way so she can't get a slipstream on you, she will then move in and follow you. It is very, very interesting to see just how clever she really is. It is a fantastic thing to battle with, and it's very, very interesting. It's definitely something that I can see them working on, and I understand that it takes a ton of time. I think someone told me once that it takes around about 100,000 laps just for Sophy to start beginning to learn the track. So that is a ton of laps, something like 1 to 2 weeks of constantly training with each car and such, which is just absolutely bizarre. But it is a very, very interesting battle, and I would fully recommend you trying it out. Even though this is basically just a taster of Sophy within GT7, in all honesty, like I said, it is the most interesting AI I think I've ever raced against. So much so that you will forget you're racing an AI. It really does feel much more dynamic. It races very cleanly. It can really predict what you're going to do. It will find its best line. It will try and cut back on you. It will race you door to door. You will have to, you know, try and get her out on the grass and push her wide, but then she'll sort of push back at you. It is just phenomenal, and I really cannot say anything bad about it. It is a very interesting experience. It's very humbling to be sat there racing against something just so clever that can race you so cleanly and so hard. I think the fact that when I was doing the 1v1s and such, I was having to go ultra defensive, and the car, you know, the Sophy AI will just predict every move that I'm going to make to try and defend. You know, you're basically trying to learn her as she tries to learn what you're going to do. It is just absolutely an incredible experience. After a few goes of racing Sophy, you can predict where it's more than likely going to make moves on you. If it is quicker, like I said, it will learn to back out and such. So you'll then kind of move yourself over to the inside, knowing that's probably where she's going to try and make the move if you leave a slight gap, just for her to then try and go out wide and try and cut back on you. It's just a fantastic experience. I honestly recommend you trying it out. If you are on the PlayStation 4 version, is it worth just, you know, upgrading to a PS5 to try it out? In all honesty, not really, because it's a time limited thing. I think once we see full implementation, or we see more of Sophy and more of Polyphony showing her off, than maybe. I would definitely say it is a fantastic thing, and it makes me excited for the future of AI racing, especially when the natural AI in GT7 is some of the worst I've ever seen within a racing game. So yes, Sophy is absolutely a fantastic experience. I recommend anyone trying it out. If you haven't got a PlayStation 5, but you know someone with one and GT7, go ahead and give it a try. Trust me, it's an absolutely fantastic time, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of fun. And yeah, I'm going to try and race her in VR at some point too. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Turn those notifications on so you don't miss an upload from me. I upload GT7 content each and every day for your viewing pleasure, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a great day. Peace.